stories to be told, treasures to be found, silver and gold, dollars and pounds, never worth more than the stories of a town.
At the beginning of the 18th century, vessels from various nations all seemed to be sailing towards the island of Tasmania. Northern Tasmania, in particular, had come under the watchful eye of the French. The preferred technique to block settlers from other countries was, of course, to get there first. In 1804, Governor King sent out a small expeditionary group led by Lieutenant Colonel William Patterson, whose express purpose was to ensure the northern coast of Tasmania was claimed under His Majesty's flag. Patterson and his crew set up camp at Georgetown, about 50 kilometres northwest of present-day Launceston. They then travelled inland, following this body of water, the Tamar River, until they found a site they thought was ideal for the future settlement. Launceston quickly became the administrative centre of northeastern Tasmania and the third city to be officially declared in the colonies. One of the first settlers in the area was Chief Constable Thomas Massey. He had a farm not far from Launceston. In one of the early confrontations of the time, he was raided by the bushranger Matthew Brady. Brady inflamed the situation by very unkindly setting fire to Massey's barn. Massey was furious and immediately lent on the governor to post a reward. Brady's bushranging days were numbered. He was chased by a young man called John Batman and his Aboriginal trackers into the bush surrounding Launceston. Finally, Brady surrendered in a confrontation on this very hill here, saying that he didn't mind surrendering to a brave man and a gentleman, but be damned if he was going to surrender to those redcoats. This was a turning point for John Batman. For his contribution to the maintenance of law and order, Batman was given some land and began his career as a grazier. By 1834, he had become one of the most influential citizens in Launceston. He set up an association to lobby the governor to expand his grazing empire across Bass Strait. Regular meetings were held here at the Cornwall Hotel. This Port Phillip association included John Batman and another local identity, John Pascoe Faulkner, the publican of this fine establishment. Batman was frustrated by the local authorities, who'd already rejected his land grant application in the western Port Phillip Bay area, so the association changed its focus to the northern part of Port Phillip Bay, around Yarra River, somewhere they thought would make an excellent sheep run. In May 1835, Batman and his crew left Launceston and sailed north to the mainland on a boat called the Rebecca. He wrote in his journal, "I intend going ashore tomorrow morning in the camp of the natives, and if possible shall establish a friendly intercourse with them, in order to effect a treaty for the purchase of a large portion of their fertile and hitherto useless territory." The treaty was a generous one for Batman, about 600,000 acres in exchange for some tomahawks, flour, blankets and knives. However, the treaty did recognise the local Aboriginal tribe as the original owners of the Port Phillip area, making it a unique document in Australian history, especially considering the almost complete destruction of the Indigenous population back in Tasmania. Batman is therefore generally recognised as the founding father of Melbourne, which makes the Victorian capital the only one in Australia to have been founded by a native-born Australian. I think most Melbournians would be thankful that the original proposed name, Batmania, was never adopted. Launceston's penchant for having an impact well beyond its geographical boundaries continued. John West was an immigrant who came to Launceston in 1838. He and a group of locals set up an independent newspaper, the Launceston Examiner and Commercial Advertiser, in 1842, and became a strong voice for bringing to an end the transportation of convicts. By the 1840s, over 4,000 convicts a year were being sent to the colonies. This put enormous strain on the local infrastructure. John West was convinced that a clear message of solidarity needed to be sent to Britain. To express this spirit of unity, West designed a flag. They keep the original here in Launceston at the Queen Victoria Museum and Art Gallery. This is fascinating because West's design included the Union Jack to indicate that this was not a rebellion against Britain. And the stars that we see here, which were inspired by the Southern Cross, indicated the 5 colonies that were included in the Transportation League. This flag has a remarkable resemblance to our modern national symbol. This is the earliest version yet found. Finally, in 1854, the message was delivered from a unified colony. West wrote in that year, "A lesson has been taught which will never be forgotten. It is that colonies isolated are powerless. United, they are invincible." John West and his newspaper The Examiner are recognised as one of the most significant early influences on the move to federation. In another significant step towards civilising this emerging group of convict-based colonies, Launceston hosted Australia's very first-class inter-colonial cricket match, here at this very ground. Remarkably, this is the actual ball they used in that very first match, back in February 1851. Interesting, cricket balls haven't changed that much in 150 years, have they, mate? It was a tight contest in which the gentlemen from Van Diemen's Land were to come out on top of the Victorians, winning by 3 wickets. Tasmania and Tasmanians have had a lengthy love affair with dams and hydroelectricity. It's a relationship that actually began here at the Duck Reach Power Station, which was switched on in December 1895. This power station made Launceston the first city in the Southern Hemisphere to be lit by hydroelectric power, a success which burned deeply into the Tasmanian psyche. The dam was put to the ultimate test in 1929. Launceston actually sits at the junction of the Tamar and the North and South Esk rivers. Heavy rain began falling in northern Tasmania on the night of Wednesday, the 3rd of April 1929, reaching a flood peak the next day. An enormous wall of water swept through the gorge here. At its peak, the floodwaters were surging right through the old power station, popping its windows, collapsing the roof and the walls, finally sweeping all away before it, including the old suspension bridge. The river rose to record levels, inundating more than 1,000 houses in the low-lying parts of Launceston. The town survived, and today a complex system of levee banks protect Launceston. The Cataract Gorge is one of the locals' favourite natural escapes. While there's still a lot to understand and acknowledge about Tasmania's past, the last 2 centuries has seen Launceston's spirit of innovation and enterprise generate an impressive list of achievements. And while many of those achievements looked beyond the shores of Van Diemen's Land, after more than 200 years, Launceston still cherishes its original role to be the focal point, the iconic heart of northern Tasmania.